How's everyone doing? Check 1, 2. Everyone hear me? Hope you're doing well. Hope you have been having a great week so far. And welcome to number 18 of my live stream here. And so glad that you could join me. And whatever I'm playing is just it's just all from the heart, just made up, and that's always a fun challenge that I love to do. And wrong notes and everything, why not? That's how we kind of grow and we learn and we figure things out. But anyway, appreciate comments. How you doing, chromosomed? Thanks very much. I'm glad that the tone is coming across nicely. And whatever you say, fam, whatever you say. Look, if you put in some time every single day and just really dedicate, your craft, dedicate the time to your craft, focus on the passion that you have for the instrument and for music. It all adds up, and it doesn't matter how many years that you've been putting in. What matters the most is what you show in your music, what you express. And so whether it's after 1 year, 3 years, 30 years, at the end of the day, what are you saying in your music, having fun with a little chord progression here, and it's definitely a little bit of a challenge because I want to do some of my usual stuff over it, but there's some parts where it kind of just takes a little bit of a turn, but it's all good, you know, that's just part of the process. And, you know, a lot of times I'm just, when playing over, like improvising over like chord progressions that I kind of just come up here, you know, with my looper, it's a combination of using, you know, my ears, you know, with listening for the chords, as well as what I already know in terms of like, you know, theory, music theory, scales, modes, arpeggios, intervals, that kind of thing. But the thing is, it's like you combine the two together. Your oral skills of using your ears or listening. Okay, you know, when you hear like a major 7 chord, or you hear a dominant 7 or a minor chord with a flat 13 or something, you can identify, you can recognize what that is, and that will kind of dictate what you play. So when I'm you know, improvising over some like unfamiliar changes, I try to be like, in order to get around the changes, I try to like keep it as simple as possible, right? I try to just make sure that I'm understanding the changes correctly. So for something like this, what I was doing, so a G flat major to a B flat minor, A flat minor to a E major 7 with a G sharp in the bass, G flat major 7 to F minor. So what I know from there is that a lot of those are kind of diatonic in a way. There's a little twist in there, but there's a note that I can hear that can work over most of the chords, and it's this B flat right here. And then I can branch out a little more, right? And so just from like using like 3 or like two, you know, starting off on 1 and then like kind of gradually building up to more notes, that's how you can really build on a theme, build on like melodic ideas, and even just being able to like navigate the playing through a set of changes like this. Obviously, it's going to be a little different, you know, playing over something, you know, like giant steps, where obviously there's a lot of 2-5-1 action in there. Here, let's. Right? So, and obviously with a tune like this, where it's obviously moving through many different key centers, I can still take the same approach of, you know, playing like very simple melodic ideas even though the notes are going to be changing. And that's where, like, yes, you do have to understand the notes that you're playing within different chords. So thirds, sevenths, nines, like essentially a lot of the color tones, right? Or the important chord tones. So and so you can hear there, like I had like a simple melodic idea. An idea like that where you can play that over the different chord changes, and you have like a basic theme that you can build on, let's try it again. Yeah. Right? And so forth. This is how, like, if you just take, like, familiar themes that you can hear and try to see how they fit over the different chord changes. I mean, I'm using like definitely an extreme example of using giant steps, but just to show you how even over complex chord changes, like, you can still build simple themes and simple melodic ideas over that. And this is something that I've been working on with a few of my students who are working on jazz improvisation over tunes. We're not working on giant steps just yet, but just how to really approach soloing, like how to turn the music theory elements into like improvisation, how to make it sound natural and actually make sense as well. And it's the same way how we communicate. We have this vast array in our heads and of vocabulary, of numbers and words and phrases and all that, but it's like, how do you use it? You have to know where the right context and the appropriate context to use certain words and phrases. And obviously a good way of knowing that, how to do that, is by seeing other people do it, right? So obviously when we've watched movies, television, when we listen to speeches or anything like that, we're getting an idea on how people talk, right? It's the same thing when we listen to our favorite musicians, how they play. Then we can try to apply that kind of concept. So in our case as bass players, Jaco Pastorius, right? where obviously a lot of us have definitely transcribed his stuff and emulated what he does and tried to apply that in our own playing. So you can do that with anyone. That's why transcribing is so important, so you can understand how to use the modes, intervals, scales, and everything. Hello, Red. How you doing? Nice to see you again. I love how your name is Red and you have a green dot as your profile picture. I love it. And thank you. My jazz vocabulary is it's definitely like quite a. I mean, just like with anyone, right? It's always going to be various influences, not necessarily on your own instrument. So obviously, yes, there are so many bass players who influence my jazz soloing. Like I mentioned, Jaco was one, Stanley Clarke, John Patitucci, Victor Bailey is a cat. Jimmy Haslip, Christian McBride. I mean, I can go on and on, like, because I've picked out many different things with so many bass players. But in terms of non-bass players, I mean, piano players are a huge one for me, and I've definitely talked about this before. Definitely with some of my students is. For me, like, I mean, Bill Evans is one of the first for me in terms of just like that type of like really clean, like swinging phrasing. Oscar Peterson, McCoy Tyner, Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, even Joe Zawin, like George Duke. George Duke for sure, and he's a huge influence as to also why I use the envelope filters for soloing as well, because his mini moog playing, like his lead playing, is definitely something that I was always influenced by, especially when doing stuff like, you can just imagine, George going like just shredding. So that was a huge influence for me in terms of trying to like figure out like how to play over the changes. I mean, that was just, I think what it was the jazz theory came a little later as I was getting older and also trying to understand it. But I was already transcribing a lot of cats and trying to emulate what they were playing, but not necessarily knowing what they were playing, right? But I could relate things to what I was hearing. And I knew I knew what an E major 7 or a minor 7 thing, but that was like kind of the extent of it. But I could definitely figure out what they were playing over that, but I wouldn't be able to tell you back then. Now I definitely can, obviously, what exactly they were playing. That's the thing. But when I started figuring out jazz theory, and obviously I studied it and went to college and all that, then of course, I could put two and two together. And it actually helped me understand theory and those kinds of concepts. Guitar players, definitely, I mean, Alan Holdsworth is a big one for me, for sure. Even like, Schofield and Pat Metheny, George Benson, Wes Montgomery, and even a guitar player that I listen to quite a lot. Unfortunately, she's no longer around, but Emily Remler. She was like a Wes Montgomery, like Joe Pass kind of protege. Incredible player. Just beautiful like jazz guitar playing. If you definitely check her out, Emily Remler, really like had that whole like Wes thumb, and it could just really swing beautifully. Incredible phrasing, like the whole bebop and all that. So that's why my whole thing is like definitely a huge mishmash of so many players, and over the years, as you're figuring stuff out, you try to, see what, what your sound, what your style is all about. That's what it's been like for me. Obviously, at the end of the day, yeah, I'm still, I'd say my biggest influence, being Stanley Clarke. There's still going to be a lot of that in there. So of course, because that's just how I hear like bass solos, especially like those kinds of things, like with the pentatonics, a lot of like legato, hammer-ons, and pull-offs. But then there's also, Patitucci as well, who, in terms of like using the sixth string and just the range of it and playing very like saxophone like, horn like solos. Like those are the two cats that I definitely think of a lot, or just that I'm really trying to channel in a way. Jocko, it's more so like it's definitely with like playing certain bass lines, it'll be like that. So I kind of go in between. So yeah. But that's cool. Yeah, Stanley's a huge influence for you as well. You thought it was Thundercat. Well, yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's like Thundercat was a new gen moment. Nice. Yeah, the first time I heard Thundercat, I instantly heard Stanley Clarke in his playing. I heard Stanley and I heard Bootsy, and then I heard like George Duke in his singing. And, Thundercat, he got to spend, and he spends a lot of time with Stanley, and obviously his brother Ron Jr. played a lot with Stanley, and so they've known Stanley since they were like young teenagers, and so yeah, I mean that's the thing. There's definitely a huge amount of influence in Thundercats playing from Stanley. I was listening to a Bootsy Collins record the other day, and I could hear a lot of where Stanley got quite a lot of influence from Bootsy's playing, as well as with Larry Graham as well. I know that's when Stanley first heard like slapping was through Larry Graham, but definitely as the 70s were going on, the early 70s. You can hear where like, oh, okay, I could understand where Stanley got some of the other funk, kind of playing definitely from Bootsy, like that kind of thing, which is really cool. When you hear a Stanley tune like, was it Silly Putty? To me, that sounds like Graham Central Station, the tune Hair. However the rest of it goes, but that's the whole thing that I get from that, and it's just so cool to hear in any player like the influences of who they were listening to and what they were trying to do. I think it just shows you how music is passed on through the generations. And and that's just how it always is and always will be. So, yeah, definitely a great new gen moment, right, Red? Really cool. Brooks only 73. What Ibanez model is that? So this is the, and you know, probably almost every week somebody asks this, and I never get tired of explaining this. I'm always happy to, because I just love talking about basses and my instruments that I use, and particularly this one here, because it's very special. So this is based off of the Ibanez BTB model, right? It's got the BTB body and everything, but this is a total custom, fully custom model that was that the Ibanez folks in Los Angeles built for me. The same cats who you know, made Thundercats basses, guitars for Steve Vai and Joe Satriani, George Benson, you know, all, you know, our favorite cats that play Ibanez, right? So obviously a lot of quality craftsmanship went into this bass, and I mean they got it right on the first go, which is really cool. And also, when I was speccing it out with Mike Arrigo, who's my buddy and rep for Ibanez, he was able to help me, you know, get the things that I wanted in a custom instrument, but also at the same time making it so that it wouldn't be like this very complicated instrument, and that I would have an instrument that I would really enjoy. So definitely a lot of features of this instrument, familiar features, are from the Grooveline bass that I have here. That is my main bass that I've played. Man, that thing is heavy. So I was like, trying to put it back. So obviously a lot with the pickups, the woods. You know, in terms of the body, obviously it's a different neck. But also, like, the other thing, I wanted to make sure that it was going to be an easy build. It wasn't going to be like complicated as well. So that's why, you know, it's a bolt-on instrument. I'm also used to bolt-ons as well. I'm not really used to, I don't have any neck-through basses. And so, again, you know, stick to what you're familiar with. And I do like the option of being able to take the neck off to do any adjustments or anything. And also just to have that flexibility, right? And of course, it's going to be an easier build because it's two separate pieces of wood, right? That the builder has to make, instead of just one big piece and all that. And then, you know, if they were to like make a mistake on any part of it, they would have to start the whole thing again. Whereas obviously on a two-piece situation, if you make a mistake on whatever, then obviously you can just start again just on that one piece, right? But yeah, and there's a whole video here on my YouTube channel where I'm doing a whole breakdown of this bass in its entirety. I think it's like almost an hour long, so definitely go check that out. I just give the whole like rundown of it, and also different tone options and all that. I mean, you kind of hear that on the live stream here. So, but yes, this is an Ibanez BTB model, but it's fully custom. Mel Brown, how you doing? Nice to hear from you, sir. It's been a minute. And I appreciate the comments. Hope you're doing well. Mel Brown is an incredible musician, incredible bassist, and I first heard about Mel through a good friend of mine, great drummer Eric Valentine. We used to be roommates like 10 years ago now, and I'd heard of Mel Brown because they would play on some gigs together, because I'd always ask, oh, who's playing bass? And, you know, a bunch of times Mel Brown's name came out. So cool, nice to see you. I hope everything's well with you, Mel. What basses are you playing these days, Mel? I can't remember what I saw you playing. I think you had like a jazz style bass, but what are you playing these days? And James, how you doing? Jimmy, how you doing, man? Nice to see you. That's right, the Kiesel Carvin basses. Man, those are great instruments. I've tried out a few, and I'm like, yeah, these are nice. You know, there's so many great. Yes, I'm an Ibanez cat, obviously. Ibanez have been so great. This is what I love to play. But you know, I will acknowledge that there are other fantastic instruments out there as well. There really are, and there have been a lot of great builders and luthiers just from all over the world, like making fantastic, beautiful instruments. And you know, it's that saying, you know, what's it? You got to give credit where it's due, and definitely, yeah, the Kiesel Carvin stuff, phenomenal, really great. Yeah, I remember that's what it was. I remember I knew it was like a jazz style kind of bass, but that's really cool. You know what? But like I said, I don't always want to blow solos with that tone. It sounds like you. Well, you know, this is the thing. You know, is that like, with the, you know, so essentially, like, this is, you know, believe it or not, this is a jazz bass. It really is. Even though, like, yeah, you see a P pickup and you're like, what's going on here? That's not a jazz bass. But these two pickups right here, these are single coils. Well, they're actually double stacked, from what I understand. But they act like single coils without the hum, of course, and they're in the 60s jazz bass spacing. So it's where, you know, for a jazz bass, that it's that sound. So, you know, if I wanted to, usually I go for like a little more tamer, like high end, but if I was to really go for that type of sound where, you know, especially for like slapping, where it's like definitely a little more brighter. That's the thing. Like, I think the jazz bass is like one of the most versatile sounds or tones for using. I mean, to use on anything. Obviously, it's a great slap. Like, it's got that thing, right? You can totally use it. You know, if you want to do the Marcus thing, but with a jazz bass, if I want to get a P bass sound, obviously we can do the front pickup trick, but you know, you gotta know how to dial it in properly. And so this is why I have like so many knobs and switches on here, so that I can like get whatever tone I want. But you can do this on your jazz bass too. For those of you who play jazz basses, it's like, yeah, front pickup, you want to do the 60s P bass thing, roll the tone off, you know, and I might turn up the mids just a little bit, you know. went from that very bright slap, like Marcus Miller, Melvin Davis, Sekou Bunch, kind of slap sound, to this, more darker P bass kind of tone. Now then, obviously you want to get the Jaco thing, back pickup, and this is the thing that happens when people want to do the Jaco thing, and is that people turn up the mids too much, and so it gets a little too You don't really need to have a lot of mids, because the back pickup is going to have a good amount of punch. And so, of course, yeah, back pickup is definitely very popular with playing solos. Obviously, right, Mel? Because obviously it cuts through very nicely. And so this is the thing, is that I love to just, even for soloing, I like to go between many different pickup options, because it's like, why not? Just like how a guitar player, you see, like a guitar player like, Hendrix, or like Stevie Ray Vaughan, or like, Albert King, or anything, on their guitars, where they're playing a Strat, or a Les Paul or something, you see these guys like just, dialing in the different pickups to get different things, and they're using their volume controls to get different, gain levels as well, and that's different tones, because it influences a different type of like creativity from you in terms of like coming up with stuff. So and I've mentioned this before. When I think of like the back pickup, I'm thinking of people like Stanley Clarke, right? When I think of both pickups, I'm thinking of someone like John Patitucci, or even like Alphonso Johnson. Especially on a 6-string. I would even think of Marcus Miller, of course, right? That's how I think of. And then the neck pickup, it's definitely going to be, sure, like Willie Weeks, Jameson, also Alfonso too, from when he was playing P-bass in the early to mid 70s. There's just so many, and then when you combine that with effects, now you got like a whole like plethora of just kind of endless tones to really mess around with. Exactly, Lonnie's Lament, not a beautiful John Coltrane tune, but Marcus did a wonderful version of it. That was actually the first time I heard that tune, was actually through Marcus. I think like any of these lines could be played on, the jazz bass tone, or the bridge, the neck pickup tone. You can definitely do like the warm jazz guitar thing, right? Like you can totally do all that on anything. Have a go, Mel. I think you should try the neck pickup. For like doing some solos. You definitely get there's definitely like a real old school kind of funk kind of tone coming from that. So definitely try it out. I mean, you're such an incredible player, man, and you would make anything sound good. So it's also just great to just see you on here too. Um, and Red's asking, Ralph Armstrong? Yeah, Ralph is an incredible bassist. Obviously, yeah, Philadelphia native. That same generation as Stanley and Alfonso, and was playing some real heavy stuff. In the second version of Mahavishnu Orchestra, right? But I've never met Ralph before, but I'm definitely a fan of his playing. Just an incredible musician, a lot of history there. And for those of you on here, if you don't know who Ralph Armstrong is, please check him out. Anyone that I mention here, if you never heard, this is a great time, to just write down names that you've never heard of and really do a deep dive, go down the rabbit hole. That's how, for me, this is why I have so many influences, is because I hear of a name through somebody, or I've read it in a magazine, especially Bass Player magazine when growing up, or through another musician. So obviously someone like Mel Brown, through my friend Eric Valentine. Of course, I was like, oh, let me check out Mel Brown, because there's some cats that I need to know about, right? Because I'm always searching for players, for music. That's the thing. I'm searching for music to inspire me. And there's so many amazing players out here in the world, and you can be inspired by anything, and yes, Ralph Armstrong's work with Jean-Luc Ponty, yes, absolutely. I think what's the record? It has Alan Holdsworth on it, and Enigmatic Ocean, right? Yes, exactly. Enigmatic, that's one of just my favorite records of Jean-Luc Ponty. And of course, for those of you, if you don't know who Jean-Luc Ponty is, incredible, one of the greatest jazz violinists ever. And this was a cat who, obviously, he could play straight ahead and bebop very well, but he really got into the fusion, prog kind of element of things as well. And he worked with Frank Zappa, with John McLaughlin, worked George Duke, Stanley Clarke. I mean, he was one of the cats in that era, and Stanley has just worked with him so much on a lot of stuff. He's just one of the greatest. But if you want a great album to listen to of Jean-Luc Ponty, Enigmatic Ocean. All right, go ahead. It's Steve Smith on drums, I believe. I know Rayford Griffin played drums with him as well at some point. But Alan Holdsworth, Daryl Sturmer, who's the guitar player from Genesis, and Phil Collins, dude. I mean, it's go check it out. Enigmatic Ocean. Alan Holt. That's the thing, man. And Alan Holder, that's a whole other conversation right there. And James Phillips, we know all about that one, right? John Axe, what's up, brother? Oh man, you're never late, man. It's all good. Oh, I'm super late. It's all good, man. We're talking about pickup configurations. We're talking about Ralph Armstrong. We're talking about Enigmatic Ocean by Jean-Luc Ponty. For me, I would say the most influential music for me growing up that really helped shaped me as a musician was a lot of music from the 70s, right? So, I grew up on Return to Forever, Weather Report, um, uh, those kinds of bands, I mean, Tony Williams, Herbie Hancock, like, I mean, that's the music that I really resonated with a lot. And that definitely progressed into, like, yeah, getting into, Chick Corea Electric Band and all that, and Steps Ahead. Like, I mean, this is the stuff that helped me decide that I wanted to be a musician, to be a bass player. And because of someone like Stanley Clarke, that was a huge turning point for me. And then later on, discovering people like Alan Holdsworth and being like, oh man, like, you can do that? Even though he's playing guitar, but just the fact, like, wow, you can do that, like, in music? It's insane, That's why it's... for me, that's why, doing these live streams and just, teaching and all that is so important for me, because I remember those times of when I was just, and even today, I'm still a sponge listening to stuff and being inspired, but I know how important that is in the development stages of being a musician, whether you are young or you are older. It's just where you're starting your journey as a musician. Like, there's so many things that can help you really just fuel your passion for music and playing, And Red, I wish to become a 70s sponge. Go ahead, Red. Like, please do. Like, it's just to me, it's like some of the most pure and, like, honest music, like, in my opinion, especially for the way that the bass guitar was developed as a sound and as just another voice. And obviously, as bass players, yes, there was the whole Jaco thing, right? But that came a little later on. That was, like, not until, like, the mid to late 70s, right? But before that, even though Jaco was, if you were living in Florida, you knew about Jaco. That's the thing. But before Jaco, I mean, there's people like, I mean, if you want to go all the way back to Monk Montgomery, all right? Monk Montgomery, you got Chuck Rainey, you got Carol Kay, you've got, I know I'm going to miss out a lot of people. You got Jack Bruce, you got John Entwistle, John Paul Jones, you got, did I say Willie Weeks? Yeah, you got Willie. You have, of course, you get into, like, James Jamerson, of course, Bob Babbitt, even a very young Tony Newton as well. You get into then the territory of Larry Graham, Dougie Rauch. Then, you got Louis Johnson. Like, I mean, and then from that, you're getting Bootsy Collins, you're getting Stanley, you're getting Alfonso. Like, I mean, and Ralph Armstrong. Like, it just snowballs from there. And these cats are really just playing, like, taking no prisoner. They're really just figuring out, wow, like, these are the things we can do on the bass. They're getting custom-made instruments so that the instruments they're doing modifications to their basses so that they can get the sounds that they're hearing. It's incredible, It really is. And there's a bunch of comments here. Mark Wright, good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. And 80% of the time you dial 75% towards the bridge and in the jazz. That's the thing, man. It's like the bridge pickup on a jazz bass, on a 60s jazz bass, is just like, for me, that's one of the greatest pickup sweet spots, is the 60s jazz bridge pickup position. I remember having a conversation with Gary Willis about this, and he's like, oh yeah, no, that's where it has to be. So it's incredible. So yeah, but that's why I have it on my bass. The bass is here. To me, that's the sound, of that. And yeah, we absolutely love Alan, don't we, James? We really did. It's just like there's a lot of great records I listen to coming up. It really is. And then, all right, John X, he's back with the envelope filter questions. That's cool, man. I was wondering about that. All right, so you've got it to a sound that you like, but you feel the low end is cut off compared to clean tone. So this is something that is kind of common with some envelope filters. All right, because it is like a frequency shifter. It's a frequency like of filter. If you have too much in the high pass setting, meaning that it's allowing the high end of the frequency spectrum, then it's going to be reducing a lot of the lows. That's the thing. All right. And so this is the thing where, like, again, it takes a lot of playing around, experimentation, using an EQ. So I'm not sure what I think from what I've seen, John, you're using an Ibanez like a sound gear bass, if I'm correct. So you might want to use the onboard EQ on that bass. Like maybe just bump up the bass. But just understand when you do that, it's going to affect the filter, the envelope filter in a different way, right? It's going to definitely do that. But you might want to use, you might want to consider after the envelope filter, you might want to consider something, like an EQ pedal or some sort of like boost pedal. You know what I mean? That way, when you kick that in, you can have maybe the low end kind of set after the pedal. So that way you have the effect that you want from the bass, and then afterwards you do the kind of, bit of the fixing. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, yeah, it's going to, the clean tone is going to be super like subby in that thing. If you this is the thing, it's like, even if you listen to like, some old like Bootsy Collins records, he's using a lot of, he's using a lot of, obviously, the Mutron or Qtron, whichever one he was using. And I think he was also using the Morley wah fuzz as well in some parts. But you can hear that, there's not a whole lot of low end in there as well. That's the thing. But it's still, the bass is still there. You know what I mean? It also is, another thing too is it's dependent on what kind of speaker setup you're using, right? So that's the other thing. You might also want to just look into, I know you're using a multi-effects unit from what you've told me or told us in the past. But you might want to look into like an individual, like dedicated bass envelope filter. I don't mean to like say, okay, yeah, you need to go spend some money and get a thing. But that's also, it's another reason why I use individual pedals, because I want to be able to control the parameters of each individual pedal. And so, and yeah, Red, I'm using the same. I have what I'm just using right now is an MXR bass envelope pedal. And you might actually like this, John. Even though I also have the EBS BASS-ICS pedal. But if I want to have that kind of old school, funk, I'll put on the MXR. And what's cool about that is that it has the ability of being able to blend the dry and the effects signal. So you can, if you're feeling that, the low end is lacking a bit, you can put more of the dry signal, so the bass in there. You know what I mean? That would be something to really help you out on that. That's the thing, John, man. Yeah, you're gonna have to do a lot to find your tone. And for me, that's kind of the fun part, really, because I find other things in the process. But it's just part of it. This is why when I was talking about like these bassists in the early '70s, they're doing modifications to their basses. They're getting custom instruments with like all kinds of things that had never been done before, because they're in that quest. They're finding their tone. That's what they're looking for. When I think of someone like Alphonso Johnson, there was two basses that he was mainly playing in the '70s. He was playing a Fender Precision bass that was heavily modded. He had a Gibson Mudbucker pickup by the bridge, and then he had a jazz bass pickup by the neck, as well as the P bass pickup. As well as he has all these other kind of controls that would do stuff. Because he's searching for something, especially he's playing more electric music, and he's playing people like George Duke and all that, and with Weather Report. So there's different sounds that they're trying to do. Stanley Clarke, the fact that he started off like on a Rickenbacker bass, but as a band like Return to Forever was starting to get more heavier and heavier, he needed something that was going to really cut through and like play especially for what he's wanting to do, use the bass as a lead instrument. That's how he was, when he discovered the alembic basses and the ability that you can run them in stereo, or at least have the neck pickup going through one bass rig and the neck and the bridge pickup going through another thing, just like a Rickenbacker, like the Rico sound. That was a huge breakthrough for him. The fact that even Jaco was like, there's a sound I'm going for. I'm going to take out the frets in my bass and do that. Like that. This is a whole thing where like these cats were doing what they needed to do to find their tone. That's just what it is. I've spent years finding the things that I'm looking for. It took me years or just years of just different experimentation, playing different basses and all that, to really figure out, the things that I wanted to have in a custom bass. So as I mentioned, the '60s jazz bass spacing, having all these controls to be able to switch between these three pickups. Obviously, 6-string configuration is what I prefer. Those kinds of things. And in the pedals that I have, it's like this is just from years of trying things out. So like it's part of the musical process. As you develop as a musician, as you grow and as you discover new things, it will take you in that direction, and just follow it. Just follow it, enjoy it. That's just the beauty of being an artist, right? And be patient. Just enjoy the process. And I can tell that you are, John. And from what I've seen, from your videos on your Instagram, you're definitely, young up and coming cat that's just got a lot of passion. And so just keep following that. You're playing some great stuff, and I just continue on that. I'm looking forward to seeing where you take that, and the same goes for, for the rest of you as well. Like whatever you're doing, like enjoy it, but just really like follow it, follow where you want to go with your music, wherever that takes you. And thank you, Jimmy. It's good to see you. We're almost out of time. Well, in other words, we're kind of out of time. But as I always do, I'm just gonna play. I'm gonna play a tune. play a tune here that's from the good old gig archives. But first of all, I really appreciate you all being here and jumping on and just asking questions and just like connecting with each other and with me here. I really appreciate it. It means a lot, and it gives me so much joy to just talk about this beautiful instrument, right? And talk about the cats who have influenced us, and also a chance for me to like understand your perspectives as well. It's like, this is how I can learn about these things. But from what I'm speaking, this is my perspective and just from my experience, and hopefully you can take that away, and there's something in there that can help you develop your musical journey, your bass playing journey. That's what I'm all about over here. So I'm gonna play a tune here. It's a bit of a since we've been talking about like kind of funk and all that, this is stuff from the 70s. This is actually a Thelonious Monk tune, but that was arranged by Jeffrey Keyser, who is a incredible piano player, one of the cats that I had been wanting to play with for a long time. I first heard of him through Christian McBride, the Christian McBride band. And when Jeffrey moved to LA and he had some gigs coming up, and one of his friends, who's one of my favorite drummers, Terry on Gully, recommended me to him. He's like, "Oh, you should get Ben to play." He's like, "Okay, cool." And so, what's going on here? I'm gonna have to. Usually, I read a chart, and I'm gonna have to read the chart from my computer here. So, let's get my headphones on. But this is a Thelonious Monk tune called Brilliant Corners, and it has many different like twists and turns and all that. And you can actually see we recorded this live at a jazz club called Sam First in LA like a few years ago, and you can actually see the videos from this on YouTube. It's really cool. And this means a lot, seeing you guys, you're filled with hope, and you just like really just wanting to, again, just discover and be inspired, and this is what I'm here to do. And if I can help you any further, feel free to reach out to me, all right? It's on social media, or you can do so through my website. But let's play a tune here, Brilliant Corners, because we love brilliant corners. Oh, not as yet for that one. And of course, please let me know if you can, like, if the backing track is not playing, because we all know what happened that one time. All right. So okay, I got my chart, got this. All right, let's have a go. Mistakes and everything. Let's see if I can still play it. Here we go. It literally says at the end, it literally on the chart, it says Sergeant Pepper chord. It literally says Sergeant Pepper chord. So just all like tritones, you know, E, B flat, E, B flat. Just that. It's hilarious. It's so funny. But that video, like of us playing that live, that's on YouTube. So check it out. If you just type in Jeffrey Keyser and my name, it's called Brilliant Corners, and you'll see that on there. And it was a lot of fun when we did that. That's Christian Human on drums. Incredible drummer. Some of you might know him for he plays in Jacob Collier's band and has done so for a number of years. But incredible drummer who I've played with a lot around LA and also abroad. You know, we played a lot with Billy Childs. We played a lot, and yeah, just so much fun. Oh man, you know, you see. When I play a tune, I kind of like, oh man, I gotta play something else. Let's see. All right, here's a tune with here's a tune with a bass line that I just absolutely adore. I'm gonna retune here because I think I might have gone a little sharp. Yep, I have. That's the thing that's really important. Always make sure that you're in tune. You could be playing some great stuff, but if your instrument is not in tune, it's gonna be a little funky. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely gone sharp. Definitely have gone sharp. Yeah, wow, okay. So if you don't already, get yourself a nice, great, accurate tuner. Especially if you're playing chords and all that, you gotta have in tune, you know, in tune instrument. All right, I'm gonna play this tune. This is not from a gig that I played on. But I wish I got to play on this, or maybe I could one day. But this is a George Benson tune. I know I played a George Benson tune last week, but this is another one that just has a brilliant bass line by legendary bassist Neil Steubenhaus. And so this is a great tune. It's called Never Give Up on a Good Thing. I just love it. Beautiful melodic bass line on here. Get your dancing shoes if you want. You know, this is one of those tunes. But here we go. Make sure I've got some good volume. All right, here we go.
Never give up on a good thing. Remember what makes you happy. Never give up on a good thing. If love is what you got a lot. But it's tight. He's working every night. It ain't easy to keep the flame alive. And when he finally comes home to you, he's just too tired to do the things you want to. You can't help but wonder to yourself, how would it be with someone else? Just keep in mind, every storm ends in time. Love is forever. Stay together. You got something real, and you may never feel again. Never give up on Now you're the man. You got to understand. You don't need to make a scene. Like you, she feels all the weight you're under. And when she breaks, is it any wonder? I know sometimes it crosses your mind to get on out and stay hard to find. Before you try, you better look in her eyes. Love is forever. Stay together. Stay together. You got something real that you may never feel again. Stay together. You're happy. Oh, never give up on a good thing. Love is what you got. You got a lot.
Don't give up your good thing. Don't give it up. Hold on. Oh, don't give up your good thing. Be strong. Hold on. Don't live it up. Don't give it up.
Never give up on a good thing. Remember what makes you happy. Oh, never give up on a good thing. Deep love is what you got. You got a lot. Never give up on the good things. Remember what makes you happy. Oh, never give up on the good things. Deep love is what you got. You got a lot. Never give up on the good
All right, cats. That's it for this week. I appreciate you all. I appreciate you all jumping on here and hanging out with me. This has been so much fun. It really is, as it always has been. Great to see some regulars. Nice to see some new cats on here as well. And again, I hope you've been having just such a wonderful week and continue to have a wonderful rest of the week and the weekend coming up. And again, if there's anything I can help you with your music making and your bass playing, like, please feel free to reach out to me on social media or through my website, basswithbenjamin.com. I have, if you look in the description box, I have the links to all the different courses that I have available, including my one-on-one mentoring and bass coaching programs. This is what I love to do, helping out fellow bass players, helping foster a new generation and continuing on this wonderful transition of just bass players to come in this world. So thank you guys again. Hey, how you doing, man? Oh, from Poland. Actually, one of my mentors is from Poland. Great bassist, Darek Oleskiewicz, who I studied with at Cal Arts. Beautiful, just one of the greatest bassists around. And so, hey, good to see you, man. Really good. So yeah, thank you guys again. I really appreciate it. Really good to see everyone. And I'll see you next time, all right? Wherever you are, be safe, all right? Take care. Play, love music, love yourself, okay? Bow, 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 bow. Da 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 ba dum da 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 ba dum dum da 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 dum 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 da da dum 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 da boom ba da da do da do da 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 do da do da do da do da da It was something like that, whatever. Okay, everybody. Take care. See you next time.